So, Dr. Marshall, I wanted to ask you about spring detoxing. What's your viewpoint on fasting and liquid cleansing and the protocol that you use for patients?
Well, I think in our culture, for most people, some exposure to white flour and white sugar seems almost inevitable. As a consequence, these materials can leave debris in the intestine and stick on the lining of the intestine. And if we are consuming these, we desperately need a spring cleaning. But all of our foods now have chemotoxins. So there are several things that can be done through the year so the spring cleaning can go, let us say, pleasantly rather than being a really heavy-duty cleansing experience that really isn't very pleasant. One of them is the use of a brand new form available. It's been used on animals for 20 years. Of course, the humans aren't quite as valuable, so you get the product a little later. And so livestock comes first. And basically, this clay is capable of eliminating mycotoxins, such as the aflatoxin in a peanut. And so one of the things we're facing, and one of the reasons it's so important to do a spring detox, is the quality of the food has been dropping precipitously since 1980, measured in the year 2005. That's 8 years ago. There was a 50% decline in antioxidant content of American food.
Wow.
So how are we going to get these toxins out? We've got to start doing the spring cleaning. We have got to start paying attention to the food choices. Mm-hmm. Organic isn't just nice, it's the minimum if you want to be well. And using this clay when you eat can absorb up to 98% of all toxins in food. There's some great studies your viewers can see. It's Dr. Tim Phillips' work, and it's out at pubmed.org. And he also has a website, yourclay.com. And there's probably 22 years of studies out there. And of course, this has saved tens of thousands of animals from mycotoxicosis. And it's very interesting that there was just a preliminary little study for the first time ever on cancer patients to measure their mycotoxin load. 70%, a little more than 70%, had high mycotoxicosis. So we're now thinking that this may be one of the undiagnosed potential problems for cancer and the development of cancer. So this makes a spring detox even more important. But the problem is when you choose, say, some sort of a clay or whatever you choose, most of them will not touch. If you use Cascara sagrada or whatever you use, won't touch the mycotoxin. So adding this clay takes your detox to a quantum level higher. Okay? And I also feel that we eat cooked food, and we're this animal, see? But you put all these clothes on so you look so nice, you don't look like the dog or the cat. And so the rules are different for you. I'm sorry, they aren't. What we see is the animal typically, many years ago, I raised Shetland sheepdogs, and I had 73 of them across the country, and I fed them only raw food, and they lived to 22, 24, when the average Sheltie on commercial dog food would live 6 or 8 years.
My dog's also on raw. I'm a firm believer.
Good. Now, the human is eating this cooked food. So what we know is that by about 35, depending on your body type, if you know Vedic body types, if you're Vata, yes. At 20, the stomach is cold, see? Yes. So you're struggling with cooked food. You would never engineer. And then if you try to go to raw food right away, terrible, see? So those who are Vatas need to make a ginger tea before they eat to put fire back in the stomach. And to do that during the cleansing. Now the Kapha and the Pitta can eat rocks and digest them. It doesn't matter. But sooner or later, their digestion goes. So now, as you hit 40 or 50, the detox really must be supported by using digestive enzymes and hydrochloric acid when you're dumb enough to eat cooked food or you have no other option. Okay? So
what about liquid cleansing and fasting? Are you a believer in that?
I'm going to come, let me
Okay.
just, I have one more thought on the
Fabulous.
digestion. It was a study in Medical Hypothesis, 1998, and it showed when you eat cooked food, you lose 1,800 methyl groups per day per cell. One of the major ways in which your agent dies to be demethylated. In that process, you can express very, very dangerous oncogenes, cancer genes, that sort of thing. So when you eat raw food, you lose 1,200. So the study was showing that the simple act of cooked food without a digestion costs you a third of your lifespan. Meanwhile, if you can't digest that food, there's waste products going everywhere. The bowel is jammed with this stuff. Many people in their 70s and 80s, when they're autopsied, show 35 or 40 pounds of trapped fecal matter. So
I've done those autopsies. I was in mortuary.
So you know.
So I know.
So what I'm trying to do is really incentivize your viewer to do a spring cleaning.
Yes,
okay?
absolutely.
Now let's come to your other question of fasting.
A lot of people ask me that question. Is fasting healthy?
Well, the two measures, I think fasting can be extremely healthy if you are not sick. So my measure of not being sick is you measure your first, see you've got to give something simple, quantitative for everybody to use it, and this costs about $0.01. So you get a roll of pH paper which demarks pH from 5.5 to 8 in steps of 0.2 of a pH except the first step. Your goal is to drive your pH to 6.4 to 7.0. If you're already in that range, now you do a fast, it's going to be wonderful. If you're already acid, or say you're super alkaline, which means you're making ammonia, and you try to go to a fast, you tear your body apart. So you've got to learn. Many people fast because they've got bad teeth and they think it's going to help. That's an infection. And until you clear that infection, a fast is going to hurt the body even more. So you need a way to check your body to make sure it's okay with the body for you to fast it. Okay? And I think most people, I see people fasting during cancer. Many of the cancers are raging infections. If they got rid of the infection and they got the pH to move and then they did the fast, it probably would be astoundingly good. But see, we aren't applying science, we apply emotion. You got to stop that. You got to start using this thing. Okay, that's why you have it. And you had one more question. Fasting.
Liquid cleansing? Liquid
cleansing, I think, is the best way to go because it's the easiest and you can get enough volume. See, if I take capsules, you know, I need 20, 30 capsules. There's no way. I mean, if you're going to use something that's adsorptive and absorptive to clean the colon, you need a couple tablespoons. Well, that's what? 30 pills? Who wants to swallow 30? It's got to be a liquid. So you blend this thing up and you drink it.
Juices, green juices.
Juices are extremely helpful, but they don't need to be reserved for a fast.
Right.
So
or
a cleanse.
What sort of liquids would you recommend on a liquid cleanse?
Well, a liquid cleanse, I like the heavy-duty greens. I like things like a really good wheatgrass. And when I say really good, this is a problem because sometimes the wheatgrass is NPK'd. It's hard. What I consider really good wheatgrass is you get the wheat, you sprout the wheat, you use purified water, you know it's good. Now you make that to a juice, and that's one of the best things you can do. But the grasses, the air-dried organic grasses, like a greens mix that we make, this is a great thing, but you should have it day in and day out. But when we do a cleanse, we'll put cleanse blend and we'll put the greens with it. Now the problem with the cleanse is that it's going to take good nutrients and bad. So a lot of times we do these things for flavor, and we hold back the bulk of the nutrition. So you'll take your cleanse drink early in the day, you wait a couple hours, and now take the nutritive drink. Okay?
Right.
And these are very profound in their effects. Very
That's
profound.
Wonderful. I'll be sure to highlight those products on the blog.
Good,
so
good.
Thank you so much for
You're
your
welcome.
tips on spring detoxing.
Hopefully they'll do it a little more logically for the future, okay?
Yes.
Because one of the things that always concerns me about the natural food community is that they're not very scientific. Everything gives them a warm fuzzy, but how do we measure what it is we're going to do? We need to do more of that, okay? And to reduce the waste products and reduce the load for fasting, never eat cooked food without digestive enzymes, and the most important one of all, hydrochloric acid. Because as I mentioned earlier, the cooked food demethylates you. Hydrochloric acid is the ultimate methyl donor. So in fact, if you were to eat cooked food and took digestive enzymes, you could lose less methyl groups than even eating raw food. But imagine if you were smart enough to eat raw food with HCl. Now you're really turning the clock back.
Right.
Okay?
I believe that I may have developed an autoimmune disease due to low hydrochloric acid content in my gut.
Well, first thing you need to know is that the only country on earth that believes in autoimmune disease is the United States. Back in '96, at Cambridge University in England, Punjabi et al. Showed that there is no such thing as a autoimmune disease. They're all viral or bacterial. But he did show, in defense of America, that some of these have been the result of expression by demethylation in the cells. So you keep eating this good food, you're now 50 or 60 years old, you can't digest anything, and so you got a nice big gut and you're just in terrible shape, and now you begin to express cancer genes and virus genes as a result of your demethylation. Okay, we call that autoimmune disease. They call that a virus or cancer.
Interesting.
So it's a little different, but we've just learned, 2012, that there's a third way we can do all these terrible things to ourselves, and that is to get inadequate essential fatty acids. And what we have in the marketplace are all these imposters that claim to be essential fatty acids that have been exotically produced by, what do you call it, some form of distillation, molecular distillation. And so when we do this, we peroxidize the oil. But we're trying to get a cheap oil and sell it to you for a high price.
Doesn't it turn it acid in your
Slightly,
system?
yes. So what we need is good oil. And one of the things that we see in the clinic is that just about everybody benefits by taking DHA, docosahexaenoic acid, from algae, not an animal. No toxic burden of mercury or anything else, no need to molecularly distill or do anything fancy. And what a profound effect it has on the kidneys, the brain, but now we're seeing it has a profound effect on immunity, and it is also one of the ultimate anti-inflammatories. So that's the third way we can be in trouble. So I think covering these areas and fasting and cleaning yourself up, now year after year, if you do a spring cleanse, you're healthier and healthier rather than just trying to hold on because you're eating so much junk.
Keeping your head above water.
And I hate the idea that people say, well, I only cheat once in a while. You know, the food that you can get as options to the junk food is so good. What do you need to cheat for?
Right.
I mean,
Just
I don't
live.
get it.
Just live, right?
Why don't you just
well.
really respect this machine you're trapped in?
Right. The body is a temple, for sure. Thank you, Ethan.
Sure.